Hey everyone, welcome to another video from CloudLearnX. Today we're going to listen to a recording of a live paper discussion that I had with a student. I'll be reviewing certain areas of this discussion so that we can learn on the different teaching concepts and what I've been using and what my experience on that side is. So let's get started. So we're going to actually discuss this exam paper. This is what we did. So lower secondary exam of 2019, and this is science. So let's get started with this video. Right, so this was actually a 2-hour session, but I've only picked like two different areas of this, so I can have a so that I can review that and let you guys know what I thought on how it went. So let's get started with this. Let's have a listen. Yeah, okay. And what about the next one? How did you fill in the blanks for this?
So for first blank, it's gravitational potential energy.
Okay.
And for the second one, it's kinetic energy.
Okay, could you explain to me why you thought it should happen like that? Can you explain by explaining what's going on here?
So the first one, when you stay high, gravitational potential energy acts on you. For example, if a person is standing on a mountain, gravitational potential energy takes place, and kinetic energy takes place when an object falls or moves. So in this case, the person is falling from an upper area, and then so the kinetic energy takes place when it moves.
Yeah, I just wanted to pause over here. So this is something I do always. So what I do is, even if they get the right answer, that's good. But I want to follow up with questions and see if they're able to explain, articulate about how they came to the answer. So by doing this, I'm trying to see, okay, can the student explain themselves and express themselves if they were to in a scenario where they had to explain instead of filling in the blanks, right? So could they explain the scenario along with these terms, right? So do they have it in their vocabulary to explain that? Another thing is, it almost always helps me identify any misconceptions. So maybe they know what's going on, but they have a misconception somewhere. So that helps me identify that and address that. So I always like to follow up with questions, asking them to explain the scenario and explain how they came up with the answer. So this student is quite confident with this particular area. So. Yeah. So the man was here at a high position. So yes, you're right. He did have some gravitational energy. That's what he started with, right? So like you mentioned about the, how water is held in dams and in high areas, it has a lot of gravitational. And once it starts moving, so moving is a really a nice keyword to associate with kinetic energy. So once you're falling, you're transferring all this gravitational energy that you had into movement, right? Okay, so that's correct. What about the rest?
So and third one is elastic energy.
Right, elastic energy. Yeah. Yes. So notice over here, I sometimes take pauses because these are, I've not actually prepared up any. This is actually going live, so I haven't got any preparation behind this on what I'm going to ask, what follow-up questions do I have. So I haven't really prepared for this. So I'm taking the time between questions to think about different ways I could challenge the pupil. What follow-up questions do I ask? How can I make this more productive? for the student, because I just don't want this to be like go through what the student knows, but I want to add something. Definitely, when the student leaves a session, I want them to go with something added to their to their learning to their learning. So that's why I'm taking these little pauses in between, which is a good thing. But if you have the chance to have preparation beforehand, if you know what's coming up, then ideally I'd like to prepare. What I would do is I would have some follow-up questions where try and identify different misconceptions, try and figure out, okay, where could there be any misconceptions, and how do I identify them, how do I question the students so that I can test these different areas and so on. So I'll have some preparation, but here I've not done such a thing, so I do take some time to come up with different strategies. Okay, so we used gravitational, elastic, and kinetic. Um, Can you give me an example relating electrical and sound energy? Some sort of real life application that you see that goes between electrical and sound energy.
Um, so a motor.
A motor, yes, to a certain extent, yes. When you provide electricity, can you explain so how it converts? How does that
So
work?
can we say chemical to electrical and then sound?
Yeah, okay. Can you give me an example?
Um, so if you connect a battery to a
Hmm.
motor, chemical energy takes place,
Hmm.
but the battery's chemical energy transfers to electrical energy, and then it transfers to sound energy. Sound energy is considered as a waste
Yeah.
energy.
Yes, we like. Okay, so I really like that part and how I use that. I thought that was a good extension uh, of this question, where I could see, make use of what's given in the question to extend the learning process. So basically trying and getting the student to go the other way around, instead of simply getting an activity and then trying to figure out the energies, could you go the other way around? So I'm challenging the people, can you take the energy I'll give you a couple of energies, could you relate it to a scenario, could you go other way around, could you relate electrical, sound, and chemical? So that was the idea, and I felt like that was a good extension. Yeah. Like, so even in your computers, in your laptops, we have these fans, right? So what these big companies like Apple, Microsoft, in their products, they like to make it quiet, because their motors, they want to make it as quiet as possible. So they like to have less sound energy being produced. So that's a very good example that you came up with. Yes. Yeah, let's go through another part so that was that about that part. Another one towards the end, I want to look at uh, somewhere halfway in between. Yep, let's go from here. Okay, what about number 12?
So for the 12th one, the answer is glass.
Mm. Okay, yes. Glass is a type of ceramic material, yes. So, where do we use ceramics in real life? For what do we use ceramics?
Um, Ceramic is used to build space shuttle.
Space shots, you've gone so far. How do we see ceramic in real life, in day-to-day life?
Uh, yes,
Where do we see them?
um, so glass and cups.
Yeah, your mugs at home. Yeah, this is, I cannot say it enough. This is something I see a lot among students uh, that I teach. So, especially with science, uh, students have such a huge gap between, they just have science associated with things that are really far apart from day-to-day life. So here, like, this student went straight away, ceramic was associated with shuttles, space shuttles. um, so this is a really big issue, I think, right, in today's learning processes. um, so what we've done is made the subject content, uh, so the student, what I see is, I think the student does not have any relationship or interaction with the subject content and daily life, which is a huge problem. That's one of the reasons why I always like to associate things with real life. Even in the previous question, I would get the student to see how companies work, give them examples on why things work like that. So, getting things that they use in day to day lives, having that relationship between things like that and the subject content as much as possible, uh, which is a huge gap that I've seen. So even in this example, that's why I picked this example specifically, because this shows you uh, how much of a gap there is. So like the subject content is merely learned to pass the exams, but they don't have use it in their. It's not part of their daily life. They don't feel it that way. They don't approach it that way. So that's one of the key things that I try to address during my sessions. I want to see whether the pupil has this association as much as possible. So you'll see over here, we'll just listen to this and see how that benefits the student right away. There are ceramic, your sinks, your most items in your washroom is made out of ceramic. Plates, your plates probably made out of ceramic. So many things are made out of ceramic and glass. So they are similar, kind of very similar. The way they break, very similar, isn't it? The way if you take a ceramic plate and a glass plate, even though the sound is different, the way they break is kind of same compared to rubber, polythene, and copper. Does that make sense?
So then polythene come under polythene.
The polythene comes under, that's a good question. Polythene comes under, if you remember, polymer. Polymer. Do you see that? Polymer, do you see what I typed?
Yes.
Polymer. Do you remember polymer? We learned a while back, we learned this word, polymer. Do you remember where we learned it?
Yes.
Where did we learn it?
So it was so when we were talking about materials.
No. After that, we learned very recently when we were talking about what was it? Enzymes and things like that. We talked about polymers. Poly, we learned about how poly works and polymers. So polymers are basically chain-like structures. Where did we learn? What sort of chain-like structures? Where did we find? If you can remember? What are some?
So it was we was talking about how glucose got together and formed starch.
Exactly, that's exactly right. So starch is a polymer of glucose, right? So you have the idea. So polythene is a artificial polymer. That means humans make it, and starch is a natural polymer. So chain-like things. Okay. Yeah, so this is another thing that I found that was useful for the student. What I generally like to do is try and get. Uh, so this is also part of a revision process. So we want to try and get as much out of this. Like I said earlier, so I'm trying to see, okay, can the student link so polymers, see if she can recall what we learned on other natural polymers, to see, okay, so these sort of things actually help the student in an even in an exam environment, if they can associate these words, these with anything, so that what they know, so they can track themselves to um towards a certain point. So if they knew about glucose, they could think about the structure of glucose and then work their way through to different similar structures, right? To get an idea on how they work, why they have certain properties. So that's what I'm encouraging here. That's what I'm trying to get out of the pupil, to see how they can link not just like materials, the lesson, the topic materials, but to see how they can relate it with previously learned concepts and try to build those links that from what they've already learned, right? Yes, so we'll continue with that. Right, that's about that. And where do we see copper in real life? What do we use copper for?
So it's used in wires.
Wires, very good. Yes. Any reasons why it's used in wires? What are the special properties for it?
It's because it conducts electricity.
Yes, very good conductor of electricity. It's very good. Right. And another question I wanted to ask is, why do we use, what are the special properties of glass and ceramic? What are the special things? If I asked you, what are the special properties of. Okay, so this is where, so this is another extension I'm trying to do. So you can see that I'm taking some time moving back and forth, giving different questions. Here I'm trying to extend this to uncover different areas of how I could question, make maximum use out of this question, and have a discussion around the concepts that we've built, and explore different areas on how the pupil could get questioned. Uh, so here um, you'll see how the student makes use of the discussion we had just a while back on how we associated ceramics with the the objects that he or she uses in their day-to-day life. So you'll see how that actually helped the student. Um, let's just listen to it. Right? Ceramic materials. What can you think of? What comes to mind? Yes.
So it can be kept for a long period of time.
It can be kept for a longer period of time. That's right. So that's one of the things.
Waterproof.
Waterproof, very important, right? So if we want to use them as plates, obviously when we wash the plates, we want it to have no damage on the plates. So that's a good example there, waterproof or water resistant. And anything else?
So hard temperature.
Yeah, it's not flexible, it's hard, it has that hard property. Yes, very true. And what about It's heat conductivity. What can you say? Is it a good conductor of heat or is it a poor of heat?
It should be poor conductor.
Yeah. So generally, it is considered a very poor. It's considered an insulator, right? Not conduct heat. Yeah. So those are properties. Yeah, so that's about it. So you should have seen how this pupil was able to get those different properties. Definitely, she was associating them and coming up with them by figuring out, like, maybe the mugs, maybe the place, we don't actually know, but definitely from comparing them to objects and trying to get them instead of having to uh, necessarily recall those properties listed down maybe in a textbook or a notebook, right? So that's what why I always encourage you to associate everything with real life example. For example, if let's say the pupil only knew ceramics used in space shuttles, what are the chances of he or she getting the properties right without um, having the actual textbook knowledge, if without memorizing that? What are the chances? Very low, right? Because never touched ceramics, never felt it, didn't know what it would feel like, what it's used for, and things like that. So these are the things I try to encourage. So that was a good area in this. Apart from that, in this session, I think I felt like maybe try to make it give more praises to the student, try and encourage the student to do. I think praising is something I missed out on this. So by praising, I mean encouraging explanations, not just saying good, that's right, and things like that. I could have encouraged the student for her explanations, what she gives, and so that she does that repeatedly and does better at it, right? So they get encouraged, so to motivate them. Apart from that, I felt like these two were really good, productive sessions during this lesson. So, okay, I am actually going to end the session here, and this video over here actually. So, all right then. Do like the video and subscribe. We'll be coming up with more videos like this, reviewing, coming up with more clips. So, have a nice day. Goodbye.